Well, if it's Friday, it's time for another episode of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. This is another 10-minute nugget of information. So if you are at work right now, may be a good time for you to take your coffee break. And at the end of 10 minutes, we'll let you know when it's time to go back to work. And as we do every Friday, we bring in our financial philosopher, and that is right over there, Phillip Washington Jr. Last week, you said hello to the Mansfieldites. This week, say hello to the Mansfieldians.
How's it going, Mansfieldians? Hope you're having a great day.
Because I'm not sure there's an official word for someone who lives in Mansfield. So
we need to do a poll.
So we're bouncing back and forth between ites and Ildians. So let's hop right into it. And we are talking about today a world with Bitcoin at the center. I think, as you mentioned on your podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple, that first you kind of have to know a history of money before we get into the new world, if you will. And let's just go and tee it up. And
thank you.
Sure.
And I'll give the short synopsis, shorter than my podcast. I researched Venetian Empire, Dutch Empire, UK, US, right, which are relatively recent empires that had global financial networks and empires. And I was like, what was the common themes? Well, the common themes was they had to have a big network, right, or countries that accept their currency and do trade with them. Now, some of it was done through conquering and force initially, some of it done through business as of recently, but you got to have a good network. And then if you look at the evolution of each system from generation to generation, like from Phoenician to Dutch to UK to US, the system flowed to each time to a more transparent and a more connected system, right? Each and every time. And so, but that's it, going to energetic laws, like I talked about on my podcast, it's like, if you think about what's evolution is a species using its energy more efficiently. Those are the ones that survive, right?
Right.
As a species, if you have let's say this block of density of energy, the less energy it needs to use to survive, the more likely it is to evolve. And so this is the same thing with when you look at money. It's like, all right, for a system to evolve, it's going to evolve. It's not going to evolve backwards, right? We don't evolve backwards. We evolve forward. So it's going to evolve to a more open, more connected, more transparent system.
It sounds like survival of the fittest.
100%. Like that's evolution. That is spontaneous evolution upwards from the bottom up.
Darwin would be proud.
Darwin would be.
And so this brings us, first of all, before we get into the new world, has there ever been a global currency? There's been the yen, there's now the euro, there's the US dollar, and so on. But has there ever been one currency where you can actually use it worldwide?
That's what the dollar is today. And that's what the pound. And let me say it a different way. Like if you have there been countries where the dollar was not accepted or just that were locked out of the financial system? Always. Yeah. But like as a collective whole, like we've always kind of had like one global currency, one empire for what we would consider like the advanced world. And so, it was the dollar, then it was the pound before then, and then it was the Dutch mark, which is Dutch, and then before that it was, I don't remember what the Venetian currency was. And you had iterations in between where you had France had their power, but Spain, but they were never they didn't get as large as these, at least from what I can collectively remember in the moment.
And now we're in the new world.
And now we're in the new world.
And now we're in the digital world.
In the digital world, right? So like what's more connected than the internet? Like if you think about it, trends towards a more connected economy. Like the internet is the most connected economy because we can do business with 8 billion people, theoretically, on the internet. And that connectivity, right, which is what a lot of space is all about, is getting more and more expansive. And then you go to transparency, the other component, and then you go, and the transparency of these cryptocurrencies that are internet money, where you can like go validate the transactions on the blockchain, and people go, I don't even know what you just said right there, Phillip. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, once you learn the language, you can speak it. I'm just saying, like, there's nobody hiding the language. Like, you can go watch 10 hours of a YouTube video and figure out how to validate Bitcoin on the blockchain.
Yeah.
It's not super difficult. You just never spoke the language before.
Okay, and with Bitcoin, as you meant, this is it's a worldwide currency that if you wanted to pay someone in Japan by Bitcoin, and I know you've talked about this before, you click a button and within seconds they've got that, as opposed to transferring money from, say, PayPal to your bank account, where it's going to take 2 to 3 business days
to settle, right? Yeah,
Right.
And let me clarify Bitcoin because the hardcore people are going to be like, Phillip, is not seconds. It's like the average transaction at the base layer of Bitcoin is something like 10 minutes. It's like an internet, like if everybody's using the internet at one time and it slows it
takes
up.
a little time.
It takes a little time, but settling in 10 minutes is, even if it took an hour to settle, that's still better than 2 or 3 days to settle, right? I mean, now they have different things built on top of Bitcoin, like Lightning, which is like a layer 2. And so that, like you said, that settles instantly. If you move the transaction to the second layer and then you transact on Lightning, that's instant.
You mentioned on your podcast that Bitcoin, whoever they are only going to produce 21 million Bitcoin, and then that's it. They've tapped out.
The algorithm, right? The algorithm.
How many are actually in currency right now?
That's a great question. I don't know. I feel like a lot. I feel like 18 million. We can ask Google.
Okay. And while you're asking Google, then the next question would be, when are they going to release the next batch of Bitcoin? And
that's pretty close, 19.4 million.
19.4 million. So they've almost reached their tap out.
Yeah, but the last coin will not be issued till something like 2140. It's like the scale that the rest of them will be issued as going to be like super slow, because the way that it works is like, as the network gets bigger, it gets harder. It takes more energy to mine a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So like the people who built the algorithm built it on purpose to manage the process properly. That algorithm like mirrors like the algorithm of the universe, if you really think about it, because it like like evolution. If humans, we can stop evolution, we would, right? If we could stop the natural market forces, we would, to manipulate it, and then we would like screw everything up. Like this algorithm, it's
humans screwing things up? No. No, come on now.
We like to have perceived control.
You're just talking silly. So what was once where commerce was walking down to the local grocery store, or commerce was selling to anyone within a half-mile radius, then became, now with the evolution of the horse and buggy into the car, now selling to anyone within a 4 or 5 mile range. Now with the U.S. Postal Service, you can sell to anyone in the United States. Now with the internet and with digital currency, you can sell to anyone in the world.
Anywhere, right.
And that's the new world.
And that is the new world that like, it's, and the new world is as big as like, how when we started coding things in like AD or BC, or
sure.
I guess now it's, I forget
the common
BCE, or I forget
right.
what we talked about last time. But like this is the beginning of like that new, so like 1,000 years from now, they're going to be like, oh, you remember before Bitcoin, these prehistoric people? Matter of fact, they might, just like we can't remember, you have to like dig deep to research AD. You got to do, like, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, you guys used to like not be able to do business with anybody everywhere, like dinosaurs.
So the takeaway on this is embracing the future.
embracing the future, right? Because it's coming regardless.
Folks, it's time to get back to work. Your 10-minute nugget of information is up. Phillip, if someone wanted to reach out to you, I know you've got this information in a newsletter, and if someone wanted more information about you, your newsletter, financial information, how can they find Phillip Washington Jr.?
The best way is wealthbuildingmadesimple.us. That is wealthbuildingmadesimple.us.
Pretty simple.
Thanks for having me.
Made simple. Phillip Washington Jr., we do this every Friday, and what do you say? Let's do it again next week.
I look forward to it, Steve. Thanks.